Put her back in the car. If she comes in, I'm calling CPS. My mother didn't whisper it. She said it into the doorway like she was ordering takeout, like the words weren't a weapon pointed at my 6-year-old. Lila stood beside me, holding my hand, wearing the sparkly blue dress she picked because she said it made her look brave. She squeezed my fingers and asked, too softly, "Mom, what's CPS?" My stomach dropped so fast I tasted metal. The porch light flickered, and my sister, Taryn, stood behind our mother with her arms folded, watching my daughter like Lila was a stain she couldn't scrub out before guests arrived. Taryn's hair was curled like she'd been prepping for a photo, not a family holiday. On the entry table behind her sat a stack of place cards, thick white paper, neat black ink. I saw my mother's handwriting on every one of them. I saw the names of strangers, the kind of people my mother called good company. There was no card for me, no card for Lila. Instead, there was a small tote bag by the coat rack, with Lila's name written on a sticky note. It looked like a sleepover bag. It wasn't ours. I hadn't packed it. My mother followed my eyes and slid her foot in front of the bag, like she could hide it with a shoe. "It's for safety," my mother said, voice sweet now, like she'd just handed out candy. "For the family. We can't have issues today." Issues. That's what they called my kid when she spoke too loud, laughed too hard, asked too many questions, or cried like a normal child. Lila looked up at me, trying to read my face. She didn't cry. She just held her tiny shoulders tight, like she could make herself smaller. I stepped between her and the doorway without thinking. "She's not going anywhere," I said. Taryn's mouth twisted into the same half-smile she wore when she was about to win. "Dana, stop," she said. "Mom's just trying to keep things calm. You know how Lila can get." My mother nodded hard. "We have people coming. Your uncle's boss, the church ladies. It's not about you. It's about everyone. It was always about everyone, never about my child." I took Lila's hand and started backing down the steps. "We're leaving," I said. My mother's eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "Don't you dare make a scene on Thanksgiving." I didn't answer. I just kept walking. "Halfway to the car," Lila whispered. "Did I do something bad?" "No," I said, and my voice cracked anyway. When I clicked her into the booster seat, my hands shook so much I had to redo the buckle twice. Lila stared out the window at the house like she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't understand. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Don't overreact. Think of the family." Then another. From Taryn. "If you leave, don't bother coming back." I sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, breathing like I'd run a mile, staring at the dark outline of the house where I grew up. I should have driven away. I knew that. Instead, I did something worse. I turned the key, pulled out, and drove toward the grocery store because I didn't know how to explain to a little girl that her own grandparents had just threatened to take her away for safety. She'd been quiet for blocks, hugging her stuffed cat so tight the seams pulled. Then she added, like it was nothing, "Grandma said I might get my own room at her house soon." Hasward. I felt my throat close. A room? Soon? We hadn't discussed any visits, any overnights, any soon that didn't include me. And while I drove, Lila asked the question that made my blood turn cold. "Mom," she said, still looking forward, "why does Aunt Taryn keep saying my dad is coming to get me?" I almost swerved. "What did you say?" I asked, too fast. Lila blinked. "At school pickup last week. Aunt Taryn was there. She said, 'Your dad's gonna get you soon, so you better behave.'" My heart started pounding in my ears. Chris had been out of our lives for nearly a year, not because he vanished, because I made him leave. There was a restraining order. There were police reports. There were photos I never wanted to look at again. And there was the moment I still heard in my sleep. Chris at daycare, smiling like a normal dad, telling the receptionist, "I'm here for my girl," while my daughter reached for him out of pure habit. The receptionist stalled long enough for me to arrive, shaking and furious, and he walked away like he'd done nothing wrong. I swallowed so hard it hurt. "Did she say that more than once?" Lila shrugged. "She says stuff, like, 'Grandma says you lie,' and 'Dad misses you, but your mom is mean.'" The steering wheel felt slick under my palms. I pulled into a parking lot and shut the car off, because my body needed the world to stop moving for a second. "Sweetie," I said carefully, "if you ever see your dad or anyone says they'll take you somewhere, you don't go. You run to a teacher. You scream. You call me, okay?" Her eyes widened. "Is he gonna take me?" "No," I said too quickly, then forced myself to slow down. "I won't let that happen. I promise." Lila stared at her lap. "Grandma said you're unstable. She said that's why you don't deserve me." I felt something rip open inside my chest. Not sadness, anger. The kind that finally burns through fear. My phone buzzed again. Mom calling. I didn't answer. Then a number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway, because I'm the kind of woman who always picks up when it might be about my kid. "Dana?" a man said. "This is Officer Delgado. I'm with County Family Services. We received a report about a child being withheld from her father." His tone was professional, but there was a tightness under it, like he'd already decided what kind of mother I was. He asked my address. He asked if I had support. He asked if I'd ever been hospitalized for mental health. When I said no, he paused like he didn't believe me. When I mentioned the restraining order again, he said, "We'll need documentation. The report says the father has been blocked without cause." Without cause. Like bruises are a cause only if they're fresh. My vision tunneled. I gripped the phone. "A report from who?" "I can't disclose that," he said. "But we need to verify the child's welfare." "Are you with your daughter right now?" Lila looked up, alarmed by my face. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded paper. "Aunt Taryn gave this to my teacher," she said. "She said it's for you." My hands shook as I took it. It was a copy of a school contact form already filled out with boxes, checked in tidy handwriting. Under alternate residence, my mother's address was listed. Under emergency pickup, Chris's name was printed like it belonged there. At the bottom, a signature that wasn't mine. Lila watched me read it and whispered, "Aunt Taryn told me not to tell you. She said it was a surprise." "Yes," I said, forcing my voice steady. "She's with me. She's safe. Her father has a restraining order." There was a pause. "Ma'am, I don't see that in the report. The report alleges you're keeping the child from her extended family and acting erratically. Extended family." My skin went cold. "My mother just threatened CPS on my front porch," I said. "She said it in front of my daughter." The officer exhaled like he'd heard this story before, just not from someone who sounded like me. "I'm going to ask you a few questions," he said. "And we may need to do a home visit." I answered anyway, because refusing would look like guilt. I gave dates, case numbers, names of officers who'd responded to my calls last year. Officer Delgado's voice softened for half a second, then hardened again when he said, "Ma'am, the report also claims the child is fearful because of things you've told her." I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror and wondered how many times my mother had practiced saying the word fear with a concerned face. I stared at the gray sky, the grocery store sign, the parents loading turkeys into trunks like nothing in the world could be cruel. "Taryn did this," I whispered. Lila tugged my sleeve. "Mom, am I in trouble?" I covered the phone and leaned closer to her. "No, baby, you're not." But I knew who was. That night, after I tucked Lila into bed in our little apartment, I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out every document. I had court papers, school forms, medical records, because if my family was willing to weaponize the system, I needed to move faster than they could. And right when I thought it couldn't get worse, I found the one thing that made my hands go numb, a printed email tucked inside my custody folder that I didn't remember printing. Subject line, travel consent for minor child. Signed, in a shaky imitation of my handwriting, with my name, and a date from 3 weeks ago. At the bottom, notarized. I hadn't signed anything, so who did? If you're still here, hit like and subscribe, and stay with me, because in the next part you'll see how my sister pulled this off, and why my mother was so confident she could take my little girl. I drove to the bank the next morning the moment it opened. Lila was at school. My hands still smelled like dish soap from scrubbing the panic off myself. The notary stamp on that travel consent looked real, not a sloppy fake, real enough that someone could walk my daughter across a state line while I was stuck at work thinking she was at aftercare. I asked the teller for the branch manager. I didn't smile. I didn't soften my voice. I learned a long time ago that polite women get ignored. The manager, a woman with sharp glasses and sharper patience, took the paper and frowned. "This is from our notary," she said. "But the signature log doesn't match the date." My stomach clenched. "So it's fraud?" She glanced up. "It's at least inconsistent. Do you have an account number this was tied to?" I slid my ID across the desk. "Anything you can show me?" She disappeared for 10 minutes that felt like an hour. When she came back, her face had changed. "Miss Hart," she said quietly, "someone came in with your driver's license." End quote. I stared. "My license is in my wallet," she nodded. "We have a scanned copy on file. It's very good." My throat tightened. "Who?" She hesitated, then said, "A woman. Late 30s, blonde. Said she was you. She had a child with her." My blood went ice cold. "What child?" The manager swallowed. "A little girl." My chair scraped the floor as I stood. "That's impossible. My daughter was at school." The manager's voice dropped. "Then it wasn't your daughter. A decoy. Someone had brought a little girl to pass as Lila, for a signature, for permission to move her." The manager showed me a still frame from the lobby camera. A woman in a scarf, head down, holding the hand of a child with hair in pigtails. The child's face was blurred by motion, but her coat was bright yellow. Lila didn't own a yellow coat. That meant someone had dressed a different child to look close enough. It was calculated, cold, not a mistake. I left the bank shaking and called the one person my family never liked because she didn't bend for them. My friend Keisha, a paralegal who'd watched me rebuild my life one careful brick at a time. When I told her about the travel consent, she didn't gasp. She didn't say, "Wow." She said the most terrifying thing. "Dana," she said, "if they forged your signature once, they've done other paperwork too. You need to lock everything down today." I drove straight to Lila's school and asked to speak to the principal. My voice stayed calm, but my hands were trembling under the table. "No one picks her up except me," I said. "Not my mother, not my sister, not her father, not anyone with a note, ever for." The principal nodded, then looked uncomfortable. "Miss Hart, your sister already filed an emergency contact update." My stomach lurched. "What?" "She brought a form," the principal said, "with your signature." I couldn't breathe. "Can I see it?" She handed me a copy. At the bottom, in my name, was a signature I didn't write. Under authorized pickup, 2 names, Taryn Collins, Christopher Lane, my ex. I stared at it until my eyes burned. This was accepted? The principal's mouth tightened. It looked legitimate. "And she said you were overwhelmed. She said she was helping for the family." I forced my voice not to shake. "This is criminal," I said. "If anyone releases my daughter, You will be handing her to the man the court says can't be near her." The principal's eyes widened. "We'll correct it immediately." "You'll do more than correct it," I said. "You'll document it. You'll call your district. And if you need to see the restraining order, I have it in my car." When I walked out, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from my mother. Her voice was syrupy. "Dana, honey, you're spiraling. We just want what's best for Lila. She needs stability. She needs family. Come back to the house and we'll talk." Stability. The same word they used when they wanted control. That night, Keisha sat at my table, and we filed reports: identity fraud, falsified documents, attempted interference with custody. She worked fast, like she'd been waiting for me to stop hoping and start moving. And then she asked, "Where does your sister work again?" I answered without thinking. "She's an office manager at a private security company." "Why?" Keisha's silence lasted too long. "Dana," she said slowly. "What if she's not just bluffing with CPS?" She pulled up my sister's employer website. They did family reunification transports. They specialized in escorting minors from one parent to another, legally, quietly, efficiently. And the worst part? Their website bragged about discreet transfers in sensitive situations and neutral third-party escorts to reduce conflict. It read like a brochure for kidnapping with better fonts. Keisha pointed at the staff page. "Your sister's name is listed as operations coordinator." My mouth went dry. "She's not just office staff," I whispered. Keisha's eyes stayed on the screen. "She's the one who schedules it." A new thought hit me, sharp and sickening. "That tote bag by my mom's coat rack," I said. "It had Lila's name on it." Keisha nodded slowly. They were planning an overnight, maybe longer. And then I remembered something else. A week ago, my mother had asked for a copy of Lila's birth certificate for her records. I'd laughed and said no. She'd smiled like it didn't matter. It mattered. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the door, the window, the hallway. Because once you realize people are willing to steal your child with a smile, every creak becomes a threat. At 3:12 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. A photo, Leela's classroom door, and one line underneath, "Tomorrow we fix this." For her, I drove Lila to school myself and didn't let go of her hand until the teacher closed the classroom door between us. "Love you, Mom," she said, waving. I smiled like everything was normal. Then I walked back to my car and sat there shaking until my knuckles hurt. Keisha met me at the courthouse at 9. She didn't hug me. She didn't do comfort. She did action. We filed an emergency custody petition. We attached the restraining order. We attached the forged school form. We attached the notary discrepancy. We attached screenshots of the creepy text. We asked the judge for one simple thing: prevent my family from contacting or removing my child while the fraud investigation ran. While Keisha stapled exhibits, I kept seeing my mother's face on the porch, how calm she was while threatening to call CPS, like she'd practiced that tone in the mirror. Keisha whispered, "They're building a narrative. Unstable mom. Helpful family. Returning child to support. And if I react," I said, "I prove their point." Keisha nodded. "So we don't react. We document." The clerk looked at the paperwork and raised an eyebrow. "You're moving fast," she said. "I'm trying to keep my kids safe," I said, and my voice came out sharper than I intended. The judge scheduled a same-day hearing. Same day. I should have felt relief. Instead, my stomach tightened, because a hearing meant notice, and notice meant my family would know I was fighting back. On the courthouse steps, my mother called again. I answered, because I needed to hear what lie she was rehearsing. "Dana," she said, voice trembling like she was the victim. "Why are you doing this? Lila needs her grandmother. She needs her aunt. She needs a real home. You're making her life unstable." I laughed once, short and ugly. "You filed a CPS report on me. I have sexted A pause. Then my mother's gentle voice. We didn't file anything. We just asked for help. You've been struggling. Don't, I said. Don't pretend. My mother sighed. Honey, you're angry, but you'll thank us later. If you just bring Lila back to our house, we can make this easier. There it was. The offer wrapped in concern. Back, I repeated. You mean you want custody? We want what's best, she said quickly. Your sister's husband has resources, a yard, a stable schedule, schools. It's not punishment, it's support. A stable schedule. My daughter's schedule included me kissing her forehead every night and telling her she was safe. That was the schedule they wanted to interrupt. I hung up. At noon, I got a call from Lila's school. The secretary sounded shaky. Miss Hart, your sister is here. My lungs seized. Do not release my daughter. She says she has updated authorization, the secretary said. She's insisting. I'm on my way, I said, already moving. I drove like a criminal. Red lights became suggestions. My hands were slick with sweat on the wheel. When I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her. Taryn stood by the front office, perfect hair, perfect coat, holding a folder like she owned the building. Beside her was a man in a blazer with a badge clipped to his belt. Not police, private, she'd brought backup. I stormed inside. Step away from my daughter, I said. Taryn turned slowly, like she'd been waiting for me. She smiled, calm as a therapist. Dana, she said softly, you're scaring everyone. The man with the badge cleared his throat. Ma'am, I'm a family transport specialist, he said. We're here for the child. I felt my vision blur with rage. You're here to kidnap her. Taryn's smile didn't move. Don't say that word, she whispered. It makes you sound unstable. There it was. The trap. I forced myself to breathe. The court says Chris cannot be near my child, I said. You put his name on the pickup list. Taryn's eyes flickered just a tiny crack. Then she shrugged. Mistake, she said. I corrected it. By forging my signature, I said louder. The secretary gasped. The transport guy stiffened. Taryn tilted her head. You're spiraling, she repeated, and I realized she'd practiced that line. Then she leaned in, voice low so only I could hear. You're not going to win, she said. Mom already talked to Chris. He's ready to be a dad again. Lila deserves 2 parents. You can't keep her all to yourself. I turned to the secretary. Call the police, I said. Right now. The transport guy stepped back, suddenly uncertain. Taryn's smile stayed in place, but her eyes went sharp. If you do that, she murmured, Mom will tell them about your episodes. Episodes. The word they used for the nights I cried after court, the days I couldn't eat, the panic attacks I never asked them to help with because they only collected my pain like ammo. Sirens wailed outside 10 minutes later. And when the officer walked in, Taryn's face shifted, just barely, because the officer wasn't alone. He was holding a thick file, and the name on the label wasn't mine. It was Lila's. Officer Kim's eyes landed on me like he was weighing me. Miss Hart, he said. Have you ever had a welfare check before? No, I said, but my voice wobbled. He flipped the file open. According to our records, he said slowly, there was a welfare check at your mother's address last month. The child listed was Lila Hart. My blood went cold. She's never lived there. Taryn's smile came back, bright and poisonous. It was just a misunderstanding, she said. A misunderstanding that created a government paper trail with my child's name on it. Officer Kim set the file down. We're going to need to talk privately, he said. And as he stood, his radio crackled with a name that made my stomach drop again. Christopher Lane is on his way. My daughter's father was coming to the school. And my sister looked relieved. The officer asked us to sit. The transport guy vanished like smoke the moment the uniform showed up. Taryn sat smoothly. I sat like my legs didn't belong to me. The secretary hovered near the counter, pale. "I'm Officer Kim," he said. "We received multiple reports regarding this child. Multiple." My stomach sank. "From who?" He didn't answer directly. He opened the file and pulled out a photo, a screenshot. It was my social media page, Lila, at the playground, cheeks red from cold, smiling big because she didn't know adults could weaponize joy. Under the photo, someone had typed, "Mother refuses father contact. Child appears coached. Possible alienation." My skin crawled. That's not even how that photo was used. Officer Kim kept his gaze neutral. "Miss Hart, do you have legal documentation about custody and restraining orders?" I slid the papers across the table. "Yes. And my sister forged school forms to add my ex to pickup authorization." "Never way." Taryn laughed quietly. "She's confused," she said. "She's under stress." Officer Kim held up a hand. "Ma'am, we'll get to you." He flipped pages. "There's also a report that you attempted to deny the child medical care," he said. Eyes on me. I stared. "What?" He read from the paper. "Child has allergies. Mother refuses proper treatment. Family concerned." My mouth went dry. Lila had a mild peanut sensitivity. We carried an EpiPen. We had a plan. There was no neglect. There was only a family willing to rewrite reality. "That's a lie," I said. Officer Kim looked at Taryn. "Miss Collins, did you submit this?" Taryn's face softened into practiced concern. "We've just been worried," she said. "She's a single mom. She works nights sometimes. Lila's been anxious." Leela had been anxious because adults kept threatening to take her. Officer Kim nodded slowly. "Miss Hart, there's something else," he said, and I knew before he said it. "Your ex, Christopher Lane, filed for emergency modification yesterday." My stomach dropped. "He can't. He's restrained." Officer Kim's expression didn't change. "The petition says the order was lifted." My blood went cold. "That's impossible." He slid a copy toward me. A court document, a judge's signature, and my name under consent. I traced the ink with my finger like it would confess. The signature was mine in shape, but wrong in pressure. Wrong in the tiny upward curl I always make on the last letter. Whoever forged it had watched me sign things before. Only two people had. My mother and Taryn. Officer Kim glanced at my papers again. "Miss Hart, you're saying your family is falsifying documents to alter custody?" "Yes," I said. "And they're using my mental health as the cover story." Taryn leaned back, lips pressed, performing patience. "We're just worried," she said. "She's been volatile. Volatile. Another word they loved." I looked at Officer Kim. "Can I ask something?" I said. "If a family wants to take a child, what do they do first?" Officer Kim didn't answer directly. He looked down at the file and said, "They create a record." Keisha had warned me. They forged more than one thing. I looked up at Taryn. My voice came out low. "How?" Taryn's eyes flashed, just for a second. "Because you don't pay attention," she snapped. Then she caught herself, smile returning. "We're doing what's best." Officer Kim cleared his throat. "We're not here to remove the child today," he said, and relief almost buckled my knees until he added, "But we are required to do a welfare check at your residence within 48 hours. Taryn's hand brushed my arm, pretending comfort. Her nails dug in. "See?" she whispered. "Just come home. Make it easy." For Lila, they used my child's name like a leash. I left the office with my papers, my heart, my entire life shaking. Keisha met me outside, jaw tight. We sat in my car and just breathed for a full minute. Keisha's hands were steady. Mine weren't. Here's the play, she said. They want you to look hysterical. So we don't give them hysterical. We give them receipts. How? I asked. They have fake signatures. They have fake forms. They have a whole story. Keisha tapped the dashboard. Stories collapse when the villain gets comfortable, she said. Your mother and sister think you'll fold, so we act like you're folding. I stared at my phone, at my mother's last voicemail calling me unstable in that sweet voice. They'll make me bring Lila, I said. Keisha nodded. And I'll be there, not as a friend, as a witness. Witness to what? I asked. Keisha's eyes narrowed. To the moment they admit it's not about Lila's safety, it's about control. They'll say it out loud. People like that always do when they think the room belongs to them. That night, I did something that made me feel sick. I texted my mother. Maybe you're right. Maybe Lila needs more family. Can we talk? My mother replied in under 10 seconds. Yes. Come tomorrow. Bring her. And in that moment, I understood the truth I didn't want to admit. They weren't trying to punish me. They were trying to erase me. I told Lila we were visiting Grandma for a quick talk. I hated myself for the lie, but I needed her close. Not at school where a forged paper could turn into a vanished child. Keisha parked down the street. Phone ready, recording ready, every document tucked into a folder like armor. My mother opened the door with a smile too wide. There's my girl, she said, reaching for Lila. Lila stepped behind me. My mother's smile twitched. Lila, sweetheart, come give Grandma a hug. Lila shook her head. No, thank you. My mother blinked like she'd been slapped. Then her eyes slid to me. See? She said, soft but accusing. She's disrespectful. You've taught her that. We walked into the living room. Taryn was already there, sitting on the couch like she lived there. She wore cream-colored pants and innocence. Dana, she said warmly, standing up. I'm glad you came to your senses. I sat with Lila on my lap. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my teeth. My mother poured coffee like we were hosting a book club. We just want to reset, she said. No more drama. No more police. No more scenes. Taryn leaned forward. Here's what we're proposing, she said, sliding a paper across the table. Temporary guardianship, just until you stabilize. You'll still see her. My skin crawled. You want me to sign my kid away? It's not like that, my mother said quickly. It's for her. She needs structure, a yard, family dinners. We can protect her from your lifestyle. My lifestyle. Working 2 jobs and still reading bedtime stories like it mattered. Taryn's voice stayed gentle. And Chris will have supervised visits, she added, like she was offering me a gift. Lila stiffened in my arms. My dad scares me, she whispered. My mother snapped, too fast. He's your father. Don't say that. There it was. The real face. I kept my voice calm. Why are you pushing, Chris? Taryn's eyes flickered. Because he has rights, she said. And because he's stable. Stable? I repeated. Like when he tried to take her from daycare? My mother slammed her mug down. Enough, she hissed. You're poisoning her. Then Taryn pulled out a laminated copy of the travel consent, my forged consent, and tapped it like a warning label. I was hoping we wouldn't need this, she said softly. But if you refuse, we'll take the legal route. I leaned forward, voice low. You forged that, Taryn smiled. Prove it. And that's when Keisha walked in. Not rushing. Not dramatic. Just holding her phone up like a mirror. Okay, Keisha said, calm as a blade. Let's prove it, my mother jolted. Who is this? Keisha didn't answer her. She looked at Taryn. Notarized documents have logs, she said. And banks have cameras. Taryn's smile faltered. Keisha clicked play. Audio filled the room, Taryn's voice, recorded from last week when she'd called Keisha thinking she was calling the transport office. It's easy, Taryn's recorded voice said. You bring a kid that looks close enough. People don't question moms. They question the messy one. My mother went pale. Taryn stood up too fast. That's manipulated. Keisha didn't blink. I also have the bank manager willing to testify, she said. And the school has admitted they accepted forged forms. And I have the text from your burner number, the one with the photo of the classroom door. My mother's hands started shaking. Taryn, what did you do? Taryn's face hardened. I did what you asked, she snapped. Then she froze, like she realized she'd said it out loud. Silence slammed into the room. My mother's eyes darted to me. Dana, honey. I stood up, holding Lila against my chest. You threatened CPS, I said. You called me unstable. You tried to hand my daughter to a man who isn't allowed near her. My mother's voice cracked. We were trying to save her. From me, I said. Or from embarrassment? Taryn lunged for Lila. Give her to Mom, she hissed. Keisha stepped in front of us like a wall. My mother grabbed her phone. I'm calling Chris, she said, voice sharp. He'll handle this. It's great. Lila started crying, shaking hard. No, please. My body moved before my mind did. I turned, ran to the door, and Keisha was right behind me. We didn't stop until the car doors slammed and the locks clicked. Lila sobbed in the back seat. Mom, don't let them. I won't, I said, and I meant it. 2 days later, we were back in court. The judge reviewed the evidence. Temporary orders were granted. No contact for my mother and sister while the investigation continued. Chris showed up at the hearing in a stiff suit, acting wounded, telling the judge he just wanted a relationship. He didn't mention the restraining order until the judge read it aloud. He didn't look at Lila once in the hallway. He only looked at me like I was property he expected returned. When the judge asked why my mother was involved, Chris said, They're the stable ones. My mother nodded like that was gospel. The judge didn't nod back. On the courthouse steps, Lila looked up at me and asked, small and tired, Am I still your kid? I knelt, held her face, and spoke like it was oxygen. Always, I said. You don't have to earn me. And if you're still listening right now, share this and drop a comment because I need to know where you land. If protecting your child means cutting off your own mother and sister, is that cruel? Or is that the only real definition of love?